Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back to the Sharpshooters Podcast, everyone. Man, we got a special episode tonight. Got a very special guest, man, in the house. But of course, I got my guys in the building with me, man. Y'all already know Alabama A&M zone, the man, Coach Sean.
What's up, my broski from TU Tuskegee? You know
Oh
what
yeah.
I'm saying? You already know. Much love to you and my brother, Coach Jay. Happy to be back in the house with my broskis once again, and even more happy about the guests we had.
Oh yeah, man. And y'all already know, man. The the man, the myth, the legend himself, the king of rants, the Buffalo Bills legend, my main man,
Legend.
Chance. What's going on, bro?
Nothing much, man. Nothing much. Chilling, just going through tables. You know what I'm saying? Doing. Trying to represent from the 716. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes,
ready to
sir.
get into it.
Oh yeah, man. And y'all already know why we all here tonight, man. This good brother I reached out to a while back, man, and now we finally got it set up for him to hop on the channel, man. So y'all show your love to the one of the most respected people in this business, man. I have high respect for this man. Love his work. Love seeing him put out great stuff all the time. Just love supporting this brother. And we about to get to know him very well today. Touchdown Alabama. Touchdown Alabama's own Mr. Justin Smith. What's
Hey, what's up,
going on?
guys?
What's up,
What's up?
Justin?
I'm good, man. Excited, really excited to be on with you guys today. Talk about Alabama football and a lot of other things for sure, man. Definitely thankful for you guys for having me on.
Oh man, thankful for you, man.
Yes,
Just
sir.
glad that you even decided to come on here, man. I love to see brothers collabing with other brothers and just growing together, man. So I'm just happy to have you on here, man.
Yeah,
Just
for
to
sure.
start off, uh, I'm just gonna ask you, trying to see like what's your post on this Alabama program right now? Do you think it is going in the right direction with Kellen DeBoer? Because we believe so, but I'm talking about, do it has like a Nick Saban field, or do you think he have his own grasp on this program? Like it feels like it's his team in the second year, more of his team in his second year
Yeah, I
than the
would say
first.
more so. I would definitely say more so that it definitely is different from Nick Saban. Of course, if you just the moment we kind of walked into just a media availability the first time doing this Kalen DeBoer era, it felt a little different. It felt like just the whole general vibe. It felt like a weight was lifted a little bit off of people, and they could be seen in two different ways in terms of you looking at that, because we all know Nick Saban basically demanded excellence across the board. It was like excellence at every turn and every corner. So it seemed like the pressure was on every time you walking into that facility. You felt like, yo, this is intense, because Nick Saban ran that program. You know, the just the respect that he has garnered from everyone else. So that definitely was a different feel. Just a moment you kind of walk in, just feel that vibe of Kalen DeBoer. And I think DeBoer, just with his natural, seemed like his natural, I guess, being himself, is a little bit more laid back than Nick Saban was, in terms of just him being a different type of coach. I think we kind of saw that in that Fox Nation series. The players are kind of really shocked when he cursed, like at the beginning of like that first game or so. I think it was Georgia. That when he saw the players were kind of like, yo, they're kind of shocked that they saw that out of Kalen DeBoer. So in my opinion, I think the program is in a really good space. They do have the guys. I think that's something that's really important to mention, that Alabama isn't lacking any talent. That is very obvious. The moment I talk to even the former players, that's one of the first things that say, I know I got a really good relationship with Mike McCory, and that's one of the first things he always says. They have the guys. There's no doubt about it. Alabama has the talent. I don't think that should be doubted in any form. But I think one of the biggest things that we have to take a look at now is Kalen DeBoer, and how does he shape this talent, and what does he do with this talent in this second year. So that is the biggest really question mark. How does Kalen DeBoer, Ryan Grubb, this whole entire coaching staff really direct this program moving forward? But I think the most important thing about this program that we I guess when you're looking at it, it probably stands out the most, and I think it's like has to be highlighted that they have the guys, they have the talent to produce and do well in this, even in this new NIL era. But can this coaching staff be able to direct the roster in the right direction?
Shoot, man, you said it right there, man. I think Courtney Morgan is a big part of this program growing. And I'm glad that we brought him on because we see how important he is, and he's getting a lot of GMs paid in this business. Coach Sean, you got anything for him?
Yes, sir. I hop right into it, man. You know, I'm real biased toward my running backs, man. That's my position. I really what's your feel, Justin, from Xavier Crowell, man?
Crowell, yeah, he's a talented back, man. That kid is so special in so many different ways. First off, his size. Like I kind of knew what his size was listed, but I didn't really get an opportunity to see him until a recent 7-on-7, simply because he was a 2027 kid originally.
Right.
I thought I had more time to like get out to
Jackson
and see him, but then he reclassified. So I'm like, yo, I gotta get an opportunity to see this kid in person. When I finally got an opportunity, really wasn't expecting him. I think so much at that particular 7-on-7, but I saw him. I was like, yo, that kid is huge. He's every bit of whatever his height and weight is at the moment. And when you turn on his film, he's physical, breaking tackles. But I think one of the biggest strengths of his game that he is really helpful and just really beneficial that he plays for Jackson, and he gets to catch the football out of the backfield because he has a 4-star quarterback throwing to him. A lot of running backs don't get that opportunity because they don't have great quarterbacks. So this is one of the things I always talk about when talking about Crowell is that, yo, that kid is physical. He's an all-around running back, but he has this unique opportunity to catch the football out of the backfield a lot more than your average running back probably across the country gets an opportunity to do because they don't have a 4-star quarterback throwing the football. But in terms of his recruitment, I think it is pretty open in terms of the teams that he is considering. And just to be upfront with you guys, well, I've always approached the Crowell recruitment, and he says that his recruitment is open, but I think it's with me knowing how much I know about him, knowing how his recruitment is shaping up, we have to look at it as it's Alabama's to lose at this particular point in time because he is an in-state kid, grew up like in Alabama. I don't think there's any program that has hosted him more than Alabama. This new, not even just Nick Saban, Alabama, this new Alabama coaching staff, Kalen DeBoer. There's no staff that has hosted him more, and he speaks highly of them every single time. The last time I interviewed him, he said he can see himself in Crimson really soon, but I think he is a kid that really wants to exhaust all his options. You want to make sure that if I do go to an Alabama, it is the right spot for me. So I think its recruitment is still open in terms of other teams have an opportunity to grab him. But I think the Crimson Tide are standing really, really strong in this recruitment, and I think they're going to continue to be a factor. I think if he knocks it down even more to a top 2 or top 3, whatever it's going to be, Alabama's going to be in it to the very end, and it's going to take I won't say it's going to take a lot. Other teams have an opportunity, but I think, like I said, I think that's the best way to put it right now because he does go back and forth and show a lot of other teams love. I think the best way to describe his recruitment right now, it is Alabama's to lose just based on the work that they have put in, the amount of respect he has for the program. He really seems to like him. So that's kind of like my overall review of his recruitment at the moment.
I appreciate it, brother. I really, really appreciate it because I love that kid, man. Been on Isaiah for a while and been on Jackson for a while. They got a couple of kids on that team that's talented, man. And I really, really, really hope we get that young man. If I could ask one more for Jance, kid right here in my backyard. Well, he was in my backyard over here at Sparkman High School, but he's being from Huntsville up here. I think he transferred to Gainesville, Georgia. The Matthews kid, Jamarian Matthews. What's your feel for him, man? I know he isn't up this way anymore. He went to Georgia. And I don't know, is that good? Is that bad? I mean, what's your feel for him? I know he's still with us, but will he stay with us?
Yeah, I think Alabama is going to hold on to him because he is an in-state. Technically, is an in-state kid. They're going to count him as a Georgia kid, but you can pretty much call him an in-state kid. I just think he went to Georgia to compete for a state championship. I'm not really crazy familiar with Sparkman, but I know they haven't been crazy competitive, really in terms of him possibly winning a state championship. And so I can see just looking at his recruitment, because he's already got all the offers, all the top offers. He's committed to Alabama. Janesville is not going to give him any more recruiting attention than he's already basically garnered. So I would think that's probably more of an opportunity. Probably, I'm not sure about it, but probably Gainesville, in their opinion, maybe they have better academics or better opportunities in that realm. And also, I just think it gives them a great opportunity to win a state championship. If I'm not mistaken, Hoover's former coach is the head coach at Gainesville High School. So it is a great program. They came to Alabama to play Moody last year, and that program is a program that has the guys that look like got a lot of D1 guys, specifically Xavier Griffin. He's an Alabama target, committed to USC at the moment. I know he's going to be a guy. He's going to rush from the edge. Now kind of Matthews playing more so inside. But in terms of his game, he has nice size. I saw him actually at the Under Armour Nashville camp. I think this past weekend, and we take a look at that particular camp. He won every single one-on-one rep. He's a little bit more active in terms of his pass rush, because that's typically what one-on-one shows. He's a little bit more active, got a little bit more moves in his repertoire than I thought he had. I didn't know he had all these spin moves and knew all these how to dip his shoulder a little bit and do set-up moves. I didn't know he knew how to do that in terms of watching his film, because a lot of his film is kind of those moves, but it's more him being explosive and being physical and him being a really strong type of kid. And he has good size. There's not really a lot of bad weight on him, particularly when I talk about bad weight. I look at a lot of guys midsection and be like, yo, I say, yo, that kid got some bad weight. He kind of like change that when he gets to the next level. And look at Matthews, I don't like really see a lot of bad weight. So I think he's going to start in a really good space in terms of that weight and conditioning program. So he's going to be able to pack on muscle more so than trying to go backwards to lose a couple pounds at the same time. One thing that kind of stands out, he's like right there in terms of being tall enough. He's not the tallest and the longest type of guy that you're going to go after, because a lot of these guys that Alabama go after in the trenches, they're 6'4", 6'3 plus, 6'4", 6'5 guys. He's probably right at that 6'3". You're gonna see most people give him 6'4", but he probably is a true 6'3" at the moment. So he's not the longest kid, but he more than makes up for it with what he brings to the table.
Facts, man. Appreciate you, brother.
Oh man, hey man, you just cooking, man. This is why you best, man. This is why you best. I about to say, James, you got something for him before I ask him about another?
Yeah, I wanted to ask quickly about the modern day pipeline, because over the last last 6 years, we have gotten specific players from that instance. I know we got a couple of visits in Dixon and Bowman that I believe they'll be here in May, I believe. So, give me some insight about those particular players, about why Alabama saw interest in them. And are there any other particular players from that West Coast pipeline? Because, DeBoer and his staff, a lot of them kind of came from that particular region that they have they have their eye on specifically.
Yeah, I think they have created an environment where those California kids feel at home. In Tuscaloosa, they feel like, yo, that is a place where I can go and feel right at home. I don't think Nick Saban even had his coaching staff's had this much success with multiple kids out of California. So it's definitely something that's like just starting to, I guess, start to develop. And it goes back to exactly what you said. It is this new coaching staff. It is the pipeline. It is the connections that they have out west, and just the respect that they are, just that coaching staff seems to have when it comes to those West Coast guys. And you named two of them from Mater Dei. So I think at this particular point in time, I think any Mater Dei kid that is good and the Crimson Tide like them, I think they'll have an opportunity because of what they have been able to go to Alabama and do. Xavier Brown was actually asked about this at his recent media availability. For him, he said it all started with Bryce Young. And I thought about it. I was like, yo, Bryce Young is kind of, when you think about it, kind of like the blueprint forward, and just like the perfect example of just going from Mater Dei to Alabama to winning the Heisman Trophy to becoming his #1 overall pick. And he had me thinking about it when he said it. He said when he was growing up and just basically going to Mater Dei, he used to see Bryce Young's pictures everywhere, him winning the Heisman Trophy at Alabama. So I'm thinking of his pictures and stuff like that. They probably see a lot of Alabama, so there's probably a lot of Alabama propaganda at that time. And I'm pretty sure that stuff is probably still there. If I'm not mistaken, I think Young has a street by Mater Dei or something like that, named after him and a couple of the Heisman Trophy winners that went there. So I'm pretty sure that influence is at Mater Dei. So those kids are probably looking at a Bryce Young picture of him on display in some type of way throughout their time at Mater Dei. So I think that kind of like basically put it in place, in my opinion, in terms of that, and just in terms of them building that blueprint. It looks as if Bryce Young developed it, and then you have Damani, then you have Xavier, and now you have Chuck McDonald. One thing I would say, I'm not sure who it is who the cornerback coach is at Mater Day, but that guy has to be getting a raise or something pretty soon,
Facts.
because when I look
Yes.
at Xavier Brown's high school film, I'm like blown away, because he's a technician. He's the most technically sound cornerback I think I've ever like seen on film. And I'm like, yo, if my son wants to play cornerback, I'm turning on Xavier Brown's film and be like, yo,
Facts.
this is how you play cornerback. And it's all confidence with him. When you take a look at his film, it's just him being like super confident in terms of him getting his head around a lot of times, just being smooth, like crazy confident. And I think that carried over to his time at Alabama. Sure.
Rashard Cook. I don't know if you know. I don't know if you remember. He was a defensive back in the NFL.
Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. Like I said, those guys look really good. Yeah. Really good. And like I said, I think that was the biggest thing with Xavier was, I know I'm kind of going away from your original conversation, but like that's kind of one of the things that really stood out to me about Xavier when just turning on his film. And I think it translated over to Alabama really, really well. I just think he just had to get the confidence in the field, because he never was out of position. I remember that Georgia game, I think he got caught on before he actually made the interception, but he was in position. You're in position. Just keep that confidence and say, relax. You got it. You got the technique. Like, so I can't. You could, of course, he learned that, but I'm pretty sure at Alabama they looked at that kid like, yo, we don't got to teach him that much to get him ready to start as a freshman.
Facts,
man. Yeah, man. I have two names on here, but I'm gonna say those two names on here. I'm super biased by these guys because I actually know them personally. So I'm matter of fact, I'll start one of the players, man. You were probably the only one to really go out there and scout him and actually watch him work out. My little homie from Tuskegee, Alabama, Dylan Purdy, man. How do you feel about him, man? I know he just committed to LSU, but I feel like Alabama should seriously offer him a scholarship, because I feel like he's one of them ones, man.
Yeah, Alabama is a bit tricky with in-state kids, because I cover a lot of the in-state kids, and some are like really, really talented, which is kind of like what we try to do, at least when I touch Alabama recruiting side, is to highlight just the talent inside the state of Alabama who may not go. So in Alabama, may go to an Auburn, maybe go to one of the smaller schools, Jack State. We did commitment videos for guys who went to Alabama State and stuff like that. So it's just really why we put that in. And that's really one of the reasons that led me to Purdy. First off, he works with Coach Steele of All Gas Training, who is he has a super great eye for talent in terms of looking at a guy like, yo, that guy has it. And I respect his eye a lot. So whenever he tell me he has a guy, I'm most likely, whenever he has a training session that I can get out to, I'm going out to see that guy so I can put my eyes on him, like, yo, the kid he is great. And I'm like, a lot of times I'm not sure if Alabama will look at that kid, but football is football. The kid is great. He's going to go on and play somewhere. And I think Purdy was one of those kids. Like you said, he's committed to LSU. But what's funny about Purdy, I've seen him work out. Like, I've seen him work out probably 2 times. I've seen him in 7-on-7. A lot of times I be doing a lot of times I'm just not able to see guys film, like to actually watch them play a lot. So we're actually doing some touchdown Alabama now. We're developing that you guys are going to see probably over the next couple of weeks. But that's when I turned on his film finally, and I was like, whoa. His film is like really, really good in terms of him being just this kid with great anticipation skills and crazy good closing speed. He plays a lot faster than he even trains. That's one of the things that first stood out to me in terms of like when he diagnoses the play, he goes and get it. And a lot of times he diagnoses it really, really quickly. He'll leave a guy wide open and just go to another point of the field and the ball is in his hands because he has that anticipation, that high football IQ. So it's like watching his film, I'm even more of a fan of what he possibly could do in the future, like I said, because I just seen like more so the training stuff. He looked good training, looked smooth, was able to get out of his back pedal really good, work back to the football. He showed those signs, but when I watch his film, okay, he's a real football player. He's not really, of course, he's not the biggest kid, so he's not going to bring a lot of force in terms of making tackles, but he's not afraid to make tackles for a guy his size. A lot of times I've seen it, like I tell you all the time, I've seen some of the best players that go to Alabama. Eventually they become good, but I've seen like them not be the smallest defensive back, and they be running from tackles. I've seen it. They run from it like, yo, I'm not going to tackle it. And I can't. I'm not gonna say I judged him because I was a defensive back. I was a small guy. I wasn't about to hit no 200-pound running back and hold. I'm gonna let you run by me. I'm gonna jump on your back. Then you gonna be down. I totally understand it from their perspective. But in terms of Purdy, he's a guy, like I said, he can be physical. He can help him run support. It seems like he's at his best to me probably right now at safety. He seems to be able to roam around and make plays. It seems to be where he is at his best. And sometimes it's just guys who are like that, who just are playmakers who you let that playmaker be free. A guy for a perfect example is Minkah Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick he'll be a good cornerback, but he probably won't be more effective if you put him at cornerback. You'll put him at safety and let him roam all over and make plays.
Man. Facts. Oh man, I know he's gonna love that, man, that you talk highly of him like that. But another guy from the city, man, I believe another biased answer. I think he's the best wide receiver in the state. But what do you think about Marquez Daniels, man?
Yeah, that's an interesting conversation. I think it's worth a debate in terms of just like that top wide receivers in Alabama. When you talk about him, Corey Barber, Cedarian Morgan, of course, and also Zion Crumpton. Now, probably it's a lot more other receivers out there for sure, but it was probably about a 4 that I probably put in that conversation in terms of they can have an argument for being number 1 wide receiver in Alabama. But Daniels is a kid who makes it look crazy easy. You turn on his film, you're like, is he even like playing for real? Like it's so smooth and effortless the way that he plays. It just looks, but one of the things you kind of can like judge it off of is that they're not like when he's breaking away, no one is close to him. He's breaking away from people. Like he's moving. He's just so smooth and athletic. It just looks effortless. It looks almost too easy for him. And he's 6'4". He's got great size, great length. He's very fast for a guy his size. Of course, he moves really well to be 6'4". Typically when you think about a bigger kid, and sometimes this happens, which is why they probably can't play wide receiver, which is why they got to play tight end. They're not as smooth as running routes. They kind of best way to describe it, their routes look kind of jumble, like they're just like you'll get to a spot and just sit. But like with him, it's so smooth and effortless, like the way that he can move and run routes on really good, like nice long, lengthy frame. He's athletic enough, and I think he plays safety for Booker T. Washington sometime as well. I think he could have easily been a safety probably just because of how athletic he is and just how effortless he moves. But yeah, I like him a lot, and that's one of the things I recently watched his junior film. I've been watching his film for quite a bit of time. I recently got an opportunity to watch his latest film. And that's one of the first things I looked at. I watched it one time, and I talked to one of the guys that I talked to a lot about evaluation. I'm like, I'm not sure about Daniels because I'm like, it looks too easy. I'm not sure if he's trying, but then I turned it back on. I was like, it's just easy for him because of the skill set that he brings to the table. He just makes it look easy just because of the combination of size that he has and just his athleticism, great ball skills. Like I said, he is a great runner of the football because he's used on kick return. I don't think typically you see 6'4", 6'5" guys returning kicks a lot. So I like Daniels a lot.
Man, he just simply just get the ball in his hands and get the hell out the way. That's pretty much the type of player that he is, man. But Coach Sean, I don't want to hog, man. How about to say, you got anybody?
Yes, sir, I do. One other kid I wanted to ask about, Justin. This kid to me, I know he plays a different position. He plays on the outside, but this kid to me looks a lot. When you see the kids as far as similar build, he looks a lot like kid we call Boo, and that's Rolando McClain. From up here, up right down the street up here. His sister Tanya, his uncle Chris, you know what I mean? This kid, Anthony Jones, man, if you look at him in his high school, that his build 6'3"-ish, maybe 235, 240, somewhere along in there. He looked a lot like Rolando did, at that stage of his career. I know he played on the outside. What's your feel about Anthony, man? That's another kid I pray that we get.
Yeah, he's every bit of that size, and he's been that size for quite a bit. I remember I saw him as I think it was like a freshman or sophomore, and I went to St. Paul's and seen him, and the coach pointed him out, and I'm like, whoa, like that kid, like in terms of this, like naturally, like legs, like almost like this size. I'm like, whoa, this kid is he's naturally, and that's kind of like of me being in recruiting, and I kind of like I hate it. It's kind of like bittersweet to me, because in terms of just size is so important in recruiting. And if you have the size, you just genetically you have it. You're gifted. God gave you that, so you got a check mark in terms of getting recruiting. You're going to be ahead of the kids who naturally don't have that. And he, fortunately for him, he has that, and I think he has grown a lot in terms of his game. He's really athletic, but the more I watch him, I think he is that outside edge rusher kid. That's where that's his future. His future is going to be putting his hand in the ground and rushing from the edge, because that seems where he is the most dynamic at. He's strong. He knows how to set the edge. He can tackle in space. He can play sideline to sideline effectively, but I don't think that's the strength of his game, playing off the ball and chasing the football around. I think he's going to be more effective when you let him get after the quarterback when the quarterback is dropping back, which is why Alabama is recruiting him at the wolf position. I think he's perfect for that wolf position because that position is versatility. If he does be called on a drop back, he's going to be comfortable dropping back in the flat or dropping back a little bit. But with that wolf position, you don't got to really be a coverage linebacker. You're really a versatile player. So he's perfect for that position. But I think his future is as a traditional edge to get after the quarterback. He's good. Really good against the run. And to be honest, he just good up front. He can legitimately play every position across that defensive front because he can be at that inside those nose tackle, defensive tackle position because he has the strength to do that. He's going to be able to stand up against those guys. And when he get to a program, whether he go to Alabama, just some of the other programs that he is interested in, he's going to be able to possibly play more into the interior than most people would think he's able to do.
Facts, Justin, man. I appreciate that. And I really enjoyed watching that kid. I agree with you 1,000%. We got a coach who that's all of our brothers, Coach Carl, who coaches at Selma right now. He's he's at Selma right now, and he's in the chat right now. If you haven't seen him right there, it's On the Block Sports with Coach Carl. Coach Carl was on the defensive side of the ball. Now he's on the offensive side of the ball. He asked a really important question. He says, where can I get a few kids reviewed by you? And just want you to tap in with him, Justin, and give him some information where he could,
Yeah, for sure. You could definitely hit me up on Twitter. JD Smith 31 Smith. Again, JD Smith 31 Smith. Touchdown Alabama. If you look up Touchdown Alabama on Twitter, you most likely will see one of my tweets recently retweeted by them. And definitely that's one of the things that I really love to do outside of, like, I know a lot of times I'm known for covering Alabama football, which I love to do, but I grew up in Alabama, so I want to, as much opportunity as I can, I want to give more kids an opportunity. Like I said, I cover kids like across the country, and a lot of them are who Alabama is going after, but I love talking about kids who are not going to Alabama because the state produces so much great talent. I think one of the best things we've done, I really enjoyed, was Nathan Nwagwu. He's a guy who graduated from McAdory recently, like last year, but he went to Alabama State. We was able to do his commitment video. I love doing his commitment video and being involved with his family and just talking about their whole recruiting process and going to that school. So yeah, definitely hit me up on Twitter for sure, and definitely would help somebody out from Selma. That's not far away from my hometown.
Yes, sir. You hear that, Coach? Yes, sir.
Yes. Oh yeah, man. You Coach Carl did ask another question. I think you answered it earlier, but I'm not 100% sure. He said, "Where do we sit with the crew from Jackson, Alabama?" So I guess he's talking about.
Crowell. Like I said earlier, I think Alabama is in terms of, if you look at Crowell in particular, I think Alabama is the team to beat. I think that's the best way to look at it, saying they are the team to beat in their recruitment to lose at the moment. But it can go either way. I'm not going to say that Alabama definitely going to land them, because of a lot of times I say this in terms of, this is just a new age, and I want kids to get paid. They should get paid. They deserve their money. But when we talk about NIL and opportunities, I kind of throw recruiting out the window, because it's not really about recruiting at that point, because I wouldn't tell a kid, because that's life-changing money for a kid in certain situations. Like, I cannot tell a kid to turn out $3 million a year, man. Go get your money. So a lot of times, that's why you can't really say like, yo, he's for sure going to go, and not even saying that he's going to go to a certain school because of money, but a lot of times that could happen, and that's kind of like the age that we grow up in, like not grow up in the age that we're in terms of just NIL. And so I kind of like differentiate NIL and recruiting are kind of, they work together, but when we put NIL too much in, it's no longer really recruiting at that point. It don't matter. It don't matter how good of a relationship I have with somebody if you give me $4 million over here. So yeah, that's kind of the way I would look at it. A lot of guys recruitment, not just Crowell, but Alabama's in a really, really strong position. He loves them, visited them, this Kalen DeBoer staff in particular, more than any other school, I think. I was probably Auburn, probably can compete with that because they are another in-state program. But he's, like I said, he's going to exhaust all his options. He's going to look at he's going to look at it inside out, because the last time he told me that he wants to commit like all the way in, like at an All-America game, like all over. So he can stretch it all the way out. So
to the end.
You never know what can happen from now until, because the recruiting cycle go through different phases. When we talk about the different phase of the recruiting cycle, right now we have this spring cycle where it's kind of Some guys have committable offers, some guys don't. It's guys Alabama hasn't offered yet who they are really going to love when they get them on campus for the summer. So it's different stages of the recruiting process. He probably looking at 4 or 5 different stages that he's going to go through if he wants to wait all the way to that All-America game. But yeah, Alabama is not in the mix for the other Jackson guys. I wish they for their sake. I think they do need to look at Duckworth a little bit, if because of the position. And he's an in-state kid. And that kid is really athletic. He really impressed me at that state championship game. The throws that he was able to make, and I was like, yo, I wasn't aware that he's able to make these type of throws. And everybody else is on him. Georgia, all the other programs outside of Alabama are on him. And and at his looking at this recruitment, I don't think Alabama is going to probably try to get in there, but I don't think it's going to even work out well for them if they did at this particular point in time. Yeah, the Red Chapman kid, he's athletic. A mismatch outside, but he's another guy Alabama is going after. But the wide receiver position, you almost can kind of get it because there's so many great wide receivers across the country.
Yeah, man. When you was talking about money and said I can't be mad at nobody turning down $4 million, the first thing that popped in my mind was Uncle Elroy. I said I'd never leave the hood until I got my money. I was gone.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's kind of like my biggest thing with the whole NIL situation, and it is as crazy as you guys hear it out to be. Just kind of like the stories I hear behind the scenes when it comes to that whole money situation. It is the wild west in terms of those opportunities and the money that these kids get. Like I said, I ain't got no horse in the fight in terms of kids getting their money. It's just what I cover, and it's just like a changing landscape that just continues to change. One of the things I look at is that I'm not sure why we are still calling it NIL. I'm not saying any more ads. Like I don't see no ads. Like I once when it came out, I was like, yo, I was kind of like ads on TV, and I was like, everybody getting more money now, but I'm not really seeing any more ads. But I guess we should just take the cover off calling it NIL at this point.
Yeah. I can tell you this, Justin. I have several teammates who coach high school ball. 2 of them is head coaches, and I go to these camps with these people, man. I see a lot. I talk to kids. I actually was taking therapy with one kid who ended up going to Mississippi State at this time last year. You're right, 1,000%, man. Yeah. The stuff that's people wouldn't even believe. And what's so crazy is I try to explain to people all the time that the way NIL is supposed to work, as opposed to what we got right now. And I don't see no ending in sight. Me and Coach J and Brinsky, we talk about this all the time. I don't see no ending in sight, man, until some type of structure, whether it's revenue sharing, whether it's some type of structure, good Lord, it's to the point now where even the agents are getting in contact with the coaches. Well, look here, I got this player. It is crazy right now. So you're right, Justin, 1,000,000,000%.
Yeah, for sure. It's just kind of like the nature of it, man. And there's so many back windows, to be honest. I'm not. There's just so many ways to contact kids in terms of just like all of those different NIL opportunities. There's so many windows because all of these people care. They basically run in the same circles, and everybody knows everybody. And there's a lot of, like I said, that's kind of like the NIL kind of works. And like you said, in a perfect world, it's supposed to be like the brand deals. It's supposed to be like them getting money because of their name, image, and likeness. But when I always talk about it, I always blame NCAA because you basically you put yourself against the wall in terms of them putting regulations, which I don't think they can put regulations on it at this particular point in time, simply because the NCAA was trying to, in my opinion, how I see it, I think the NCAA was trying to run away from paying the kids. Like we're not gonna pay y'all. We're trying to run away from it as long as possible. So y'all can do the NIL thing. Our hands off. Don't ask us about NIL. That's y'all thing. And now they just see it that it's on, and now they can't just jump back in and be like, oh, I'm gonna put guardrails on it now. Basically they put themselves in my opinion, put themselves in a corner now because you said like, yo, I don't want to pay y'all, but now they gotta pay them because they got the whole revenue sharing thing. Now I think they tried to push that ball down the road as far as possible, and now you have this current NIL landscape that I don't see a world where they really can regulate NIL because you said you have no control over it in terms of it being outside of your realm and what you wanted to control.
I tell you this too really quickly before Jans hop in. We talked about this, and it was so important, man. It was so important. you know, people always ask, well, why don't the courts do this? Why don't the courts do that? I tell them all the time, I'm a 90s baby, late 90s, early 2000s baby, Alabama A&M. So I'm a little older. So I was a product. I know how in these days and the early 2000s and even the mid 2000s, how universities was using athletes' face outside of the scholarship. Like we was, I know golf tournament, all type of crazy stuff. People was getting, you know, other entities outside of the athlete were making money. Well, now you cannot use a player's face, image, or anything that looks like them without cutting them in pretty much. And so it's the wild, wild west for real. I have no clue how they're going to put a lid on this thing, but I hope they do pretty soon. I want the kids to get paid just like you, Justin. I'm always on the athlete side. But I hope to God we find a way to structure it, man. That is because it's ridiculous right now.
Yeah, and one thing I would get before James hop into is that the NIL thing. One of the biggest things now is that there is no, and this the unfortunate part. I hope that the NCAA can do something in that realm in terms of protecting the kids from those agents and protecting the families from those agents, because they're getting these agents and there's no rules. Like I think if I'm not mistaken, the NFL people can only take like 2-3%, like a very small percentage of those guys' percentage. Agent can come in and tell a kid, hey, I'm taking 10%, I'm taking whatever percent, and the kid probably wouldn't even recognize it, or probably wouldn't realize that, yo, you're taking this much away. You shouldn't be touching that much of the revenue that I am bringing in. And that's kind of like how it is. They're taking way more larger percentages of these kids' money than an NFL agent technically will, because the NFL is guarded by the PA, and there's no PA when it comes to the NCAA. So that's one thing I do hope the NCAA steps in and do and say, hey, we need to protect these kids from these agents, which I don't know where they come from, because it's like agents that pop up. Like who is this guy? Like,
random family friends, stuff like that.
Man,
so it's kind of crazy. And NFL agents, you know, they go through the whole process of like, yo, you have to be recognized by the PA as to be an agent. NCAA, you don't got to be recognized by anybody. I can say I'm a NIL agent tomorrow, and I can wake up and go get some kids and be like, yo,
my old
and there's no rule against it.
Is an agent now.
Yeah,
it's crazy, bro. It really is.
Yo, James, you want to get in there, man?
Yeah, listen, I'll say this real quick. The craziest story I've heard so far is now you got agents from different countries that are kind of getting involved in this because they see an opportunity because again, like you look at a lot of these big NIL contributors, are billionaires. And some of the billionaires, in order for them to really go out there and try to get as much money as possible, is that they'll go over. I know I forgot the name, but one of the a Saudi oil company, which the royal family has a huge hand in. Let's just say, don't be shocked in a few years if you see one university with a lot, and I'm talking oil money, huge oil money being put a lot in their a lot of these huge NIL groups. Like it's getting serious, man, to a point where because like Coach Sean is saying, it is the wild, wild west. Like it's like boxing. It's like how boxing was kind of screwed up a little bit because of you have so many different promotions and you can't get these boxing matches really put, and the fighters have a little bit too much power because they're agents. Well, here comes Saudi Arabia forming their own boxing sort of organization. And now all of a sudden all these other boxing promoters, they're so pissed off at this particular country and their particular agency because they're offering fights to fighters that they couldn't even afford it. So this is the type of direction that I think we're going to go in because, like Coach Sean said, like this thing is dirty. Like it's always kind of been in a way like this. I always like to use this particular player because I played against him, Chad Kelly, where he was the great nephew. He was literally the great hope of Buffalo. He was the great nephew of Jim Kelly. You would see billboards of him literally all throughout. And that's what made, St. Joe's and all that stuff so very famous, to a point where you got news coverage covering him every single week, national media. Obviously Clemson signed him and he was a top, 75 recruit, but it's just one of those instances where it is the wild, wild west. But I think we're going to go in we're heading towards a dangerous situation where I think I think the Supreme Court may have to get involved. They're going to get their hands dirty eventually, because when they hear some other countries and other big time agencies really start to kind of get in here, and all the money starting to kind of really pour into these groups, and the NCAA has no answer, they have nothing they can do about it, we're going to be in a situation now where there's no choice that our federal government may have to get involved and step in and try to regulate this situation by any means, because it's going to get crazy within the next, I think, 2 or even 5 years.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's like kind of like getting to kind of the discussion of like whether it ends in terms of the boosters and the people who are going to be funneling in this money, because I've heard people, and people have told me that they have talked to boosters, and he basically asked the boosters like, y'all are paying these kids $6 million or whatever. What if he doesn't plan out? And the booster is like, well, we just lost our money. Like that's just it. There's no back end for like, in terms of like the NFL, you got all of this other revenue and all these different things, but in terms of these boosters, and kind of like that gets into like what Jance is saying, because it's only going to get to a point where like you got to pump in more and more money to get the best players, and like some schools are better off than other schools. I think Alabama is in a solid place, but we all know there are other schools who are in a better place than Alabama, than NIL, and everybody wants the best teams, and it's and maybe it's kind of, and probably what Ohio State did probably wasn't in the best interest of the entire college football, because they basically went out and brought a championship. Of course, it took a lot. It was a great team, but they added some pieces that were really, really beneficial to that that national championship run in every different position. And now they showed you that you can buy your championship team, and you can do it in a year.
Right, like Justin, when was the last time, like even during when NIL started to happen, when was the last time you really started to see this much noise from, let's just say, from Michigan boosters? Like Michigan people are now getting into this thing, and look what they did with the recruiting class. Like a lot of that class they bought that class, and again, I got to give a lot of credit to Dave Portnoy. He started it when they were losing and they literally had no quarterback because they underestimated they thought they could replace. With Orji and with Barron, they thought they can replace McCarthy. Dave Portnoy said, "I'm going to get all the people from my Michigan NIL contribution, and we're going to get Bryce Underwood. We're going to get him within 2 months." And look what happened. They got him in 1. They paid him $12 million, which again, he had no thought. He's from Ann Arbor. He had no thought about going home. He was all LSU until that happened. And you look at the rest of their class. So now all of a sudden you're getting typically the big schools that normally are not comfortable with them. They don't go in, they don't focus in that realm. They focus on more academics, trying to do it the quote unquote the smart way. Now you're starting to see Michigan, Notre Dame. Now all of a sudden the big dogs, the real big dogs, which are mostly on the East Coast to the Midwest. Now they're jumping into the pile, and now you got Stanford's getting into the mix of things. Stanford wouldn't even touch it. You have to have a certain requirement to even be recruited by Stanford. Yep. That's thrown out the door now because they're jumping into the pile. So no, I agree with you guys. This thing, I mean, it's the SEC used to dominate in that faction, at least during the early stages of the NIL. Not anymore. Like it's now literally all out war now, and these schools they're trying to survive, and it's bad for the little schools, right? Because this is why we got transfer portal, NIL, and all that stuff like that, is because we want to protect the small schools. But you're not protecting the small schools. You're only eliminating them one by one to a point where you got schools that are trying to be demoted. Like, when was the last time you heard of small schools wanted to be demoted? Now it's happening because of NIL and the transfer portal.
Yeah, all of that is on. I think you're right on in terms of all of that, and just really, I guess the last point I'll make up more so about that is that the with the whole NIL, and I know that's kind of the gripe that everybody has with that, but I think just as dangerous, like you said, is that transfer portal. And I guess I was kind of more so naive in terms of the portal myself, because when the portal first came to fruition, I think I was more so saying, "Yo, this is great." Some small college kid from HBCU, kids from an FCS program, he's gonna get to go to Alabama, Georgia for a year. He's gonna get all this attention. He's gonna go on to the NFL. It's going to be so great. I never anticipated Quinshon Judkins, one of the top running backs at Ole Miss, going to Ohio State. I know Caleb Downs one is a little bit different because of Saban, but I never anticipated just these top game-changing type of players would leave top programs to go to another program. And in my opinion, just me being naive, I was looking at it like nobody wants to leave Alabama. Nobody wants to leave Georgia. Everybody is happy just being there. But I think I kind of got like a preview that this more so was coming when I kind of heard the Tua Tagovailoa, Najee Harris come out and say, yo, I was thinking about transferring Derrick Henry. I was thinking about transferring early on. I was thinking, okay, y'all were thinking about it. So if y'all were thinking about it, there's no doubt that these other kids are going to start thinking about it. And now they can jump into it. So that's kind of like what I feel like the portal is just continuing to just shock me and just the different things. I think right now, with me being in recruiting, the kind of the way that I look at it, when you take a look at your position, when I break down Alabama, I talk about this as well. In any position that they are recruiting, they kind of have to over recruit now. You basically have to count in a transfer. You're going to say, yo, I'm going to lose. For example, if you look at any position, hey, I'm going to lose 2 or 3 guys to the NFL. I'm going to lose 2 to the transfer portal. So you kind of like how to put that into your whole calculation of your future roster now.
Great points.
Crazy.
Oh my God, bro. Man, it's just a wild, wild west out here, man.
Is.
Like you said, it's gonna hurt the small school. It's really just bit bank, take little bank. That's pretty much how it's looking right now.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing I would add too is that I know we talk about high school kids. That's who it hurts the most, and fans don't talk about that enough, in my opinion, because fans, I know it comes from from the fan blueprint. I'm an Alabama fan. Alabama getting all these great players. Oh, I'm so happy we went to the portal and got all these great players, which is great for Alabama. It's gonna be good for Alabama. Alabama football is gonna continue to have success. But who get hurt the most is the average high school football player who probably could have snuck on and been the 25th guy in Alabama's 2025 class. Maybe I could have went to Georgia and been that Josh Jacobs 3-star who Nick Saban saw very late and he offered me. Those guys are out the window. I'm not looking at that guy anymore. Who's this project? Why would I look at a project where I can go to this portal and get a kid who's already showing me production? Who can play right now? Why would I want to wait 3 years for a kid who may or may not plan out other off the field stuff? Well, I can go this kid from Texas A&M who only plays a little bit for them. He's a good kid. He's go to class all the time. Let me go get him. And which I understand it from their standpoint. But also, I talk to a lot of kids and I tell them all the time, if you are on that cusp, you are really in just like a dangerous spot for you. And it's so unpredictable because the way I said, a lot of fans are going to say that, hey, go to JUCO route, man. You still want to play football. The JUCO route is very, very difficult. And like I tell them too, if my kid is a 4.0 student, high grades and scholarships, yo, son, we probably gotta be done with football, or you gotta go walk on. It's just that's kind of like the nature of it. And I hate that for those kids who probably could have got an opportunity to be seen very late in recruiting, so I can get that opportunity. They're cut off now. So there's so many even guys in this 2025 class who are still hitting me up right now. Still, and I'm like, dang, you're a 2025 kid and you still haven't found a home. But that's the nature of it. And I kind of hate it for the high school kids.
That sounds like pretty much like guys like Josh Jacobs would have never had a chance in this day and age.
Yeah, that's the kind of the guy I really bring up, like him being late in the process, him being this 3-star. To be honest, Nick Saban, if they had I'm not sure, I wasn't covering recruiting at that particular point in time, but if they looked at their recruiting cycle and being like, hey, we got 25 kids, we got 2 or 3 running backs, well, I'm spending my time waiting on this Josh Jacobs kid. Let me just wait till the portal open, go get me a proven back.
I tell you this really quickly, that thinking is a basketball way of thinking. I heard Rick Pitino talk about the exact same thing, Justin. He was saying, why would I want to go get a freshman and develop him 3 years? I can go to this other school over here and get me a 7-footer who's played in college ball 2 years already, right? He's ready to play now. So that is so prevalent, what you just said. And I got to give a big shout out to Coach Carl Reed. He said the exact same thing. It is hurting. It's just crazy, man. And I'm going to tell you something else is going to hurt. With the scholarship limit that they about to come out with, this scholarship thing that they're doing, you know, with it's all dating back to what we talked about in the beginning, man. With that going on, with the laws different from state to state on what you can do and how early you can offer a kid, you know, it's really, really, really turning into crazy stuff, man. And I really feel like it dates back to what Justin said. I really feel like the kid is going to be the one hurt in the end.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing I would say to any kid right now is I tell them all the time, and I'm around a lot of these like guys who want to be players now, is that more than ever, you got to train every single day. You got to you got to invest in your game way earlier than way earlier than it used to be. And kids are doing that. Guys who go to Alabama now, they're not kids who are just don't have these individual. Everybody has an individual trainer. Everybody is training, working around the clock. I remember Jeremiah Beeman. He's the most hardest working kid I've ever seen, because I used to spend like almost all day at Coachella a couple of times. When I say Beeman was there all day long, he was there the entire day, and he went through multiple training sessions. He'll like go do something on his phone. He'll just sit there. He's there the whole day. I'm there, and that's kind of like what it takes now. And that's kind of like the portal impacted that, and kind of like the game we are at right now. So if your kid wants to play college football, you have to take it serious, very early on. Get them into any type of training, and if you can't get them in any type of training, look up videos on YouTube or different things like that. It's just very important right now that your kid is as polished as possible. Just going back, like I said, about Xavier Brown, because you got kids looking like that. And you need, if you want your kid to be a legit prospect, you need him to be as polished as possible, because you don't want him on that cusp where he's battling against that border.
100% facts. All fact. Lynn Shanifeld is in our chat right now. Lynn is connected with the program, and he helps out with NIL. Lynn talk about this all the time. Just like Lynn said earlier, you get, just like what Justin said, you get a kid this package, you give him the monetary gain, and then in a year or two, the kid left. You know, like there's nothing stopping him from leaving again. So
that's kind of like it is. And that's the only rule that's the only suggestion that I would have in terms of the portal and NIL. I think there should be some type of agreement where you can't leave at some particular point in time, where you have to put 2 years in. That's the only thing I would put on the portal. I'm not sure how it exactly that looks. I really hate freshmen leaving, because to be honest, most freshmen don't play. No matter, we see Ryan Williams, we keep Caleb Downs, but in reality, there's not a lot of Caleb Downs and Ryan Williams is all over the country. They're just rare cases because they are special talents. It's not going to happen with everybody. So I really don't like freshmen transferring, but it happens. It's just part of the game that we are in right now. But yeah, so that's kind of that's the only type of regulation that I can even think of that kind of should be put in place where like you can do that. But like you said, there's no law. I can go get $3 million from Alabama and tell, hey, Alabama, I'm not playing no more. Second game of the season, I'm redshirting. I'm done with y'all. Give me my $15 million, then I'm waiting.
We've seen it too,
yeah, we've seen it. Yeah, so it can happen for sure. So yeah, that's kind of like the only regulation that I can even think of, because I'm like out of the loop in terms of I don't have any idea of like how you can fix it. But only regulation I think it has to be some type of limit on the portal, and I know that's kind of like going backwards in a way in terms of the rules. But I think you have to cut it off for like freshmen or. I want to say sophomore, but I kind of get to the feeling where at some situation where maybe a sophomore needs to leave because he's been 2 years in the program and maybe it's not the right fit. So I kind of want, you kind of don't want it to be waiver based, because it put too much different things in too many different directions. It can go in, but I think it has to be some type of regulation. Maybe we can go to freshman and a half years or something like that cutoff range. But I think that has to be something that I would basically put as an option. I think you have to regulate the transfer portal, and like I said, probably going backwards, but in some type of way where it's like not, because I just don't think a lot of times it's not smart for a freshman to leave, specifically when it's based on playing time. And a lot of times people don't say it is because of that.
Last thing for me, Brinsky, because this is very important. I want to show you, I better not use his name, but two of the younger brothers of two kids I coached who are older now. One of the kid hopped in the transfer portal. He started out at University of North Alabama, hopped in the transfer portal, had a great season, thought he was going to have these great opportunities to come his way. And it just made me think about it when I saw Lynn's last comment. Do you realize that the other schools found out he had a sports hernia or recovered from a sports hernia, and he didn't have any other, he was just in the portal in limbo, didn't have any other people didn't come get him like he thought. So you got to be really, really careful with this transfer portal, man. You got to know and have a plan, or it may not work like you think it's going to work. That's a fact.
Yeah, that's crazy, to be honest. I heard not this particular story, but I heard that similar stories from like trainers and people work close with kids. Kids are getting into the portal without their second home. And I know it's everybody is all against the tampering, but if I was a kid, I hope you tamper with me and told me that, yo, I got a spot before I hit into this portal. Yeah. Multiple people told me I have a spot, then I can choose from that particular point in time. But there are kids who are blindly jumping into the portal. There are kids who, which I know it's the only thing you can get, but they're like kids with no film. They got it, and it's kind of crazy. I heard because I talked to a lot of parents, kids now, because typically what happened, I know I'm not sure what's happening now. Maybe the colleges got better and like gave them some leeway. But at first, once you hit the portal, they cut off your access to the film. So you got no access to your practice film anymore. You like, oh, I got no film to show y'all. So what I've seen parents tell their kids is now, yo, record all your practice footage and put it in a folder somewhere, because like, once you're the portal, they're gonna cut it off. They're gonna cut off your access to the film. So I've seen like parents telling kids are like, and it's like, and I can't judge them because it's the nature of kind of like how things work. So kids will tell their parent like, yo, I'm recording all my highlights. I'm videoing it. I'm putting it in a folder so I can just wait. So I can have some film. But in that same state, it's kind of like where we are. Kids are jumping into the portal with hopefully that practice film is good enough. And that's kind of like just, I guess they can go either way when you take a look at it.
That's facts.
Man, I know we went down the NIL rabbit hole, which I'm so glad we went down, man, because this was beautiful. I got a lot of gems out of this. I don't want to give y'all brothers y'all props, man, because y'all was cooking. I was over here learning, and it was some stuff I didn't even know about. But I'm just gonna hop back on these just last 3 recruit real quick, just to finish it all off. But and all of them cornerbacks, man. What do you think about, because you just did this kid, he got offers at Vanderbilt, Auburn, and Alabama, and so many more. Caden Harris, how you feel about him?
He really impressed me at that camp. He doesn't have the long length that some colleges really seem to love, and Alabama loves length too. But I think he's just smooth, really great change of direction, smooth and fluid in his hips. I think I got it on video. I saw one clip of him doing a drill, and yo, how smooth he flipped around. I was like, whoa. It was so smooth and seamless. It's almost like 1 second his back was to me, the next second he's already looking at me, and I'm like, dang, that was so smooth. And he's like really fluid. Probably was the most one of the quickest and smoothest transitions I've seen in terms of going from the back pedal and being able to break down on the football. And I know there was kind of like a big thing between Asante Samuels and Deion Sanders on recent, not wasting movement and getting back to the football. This kid really had not a lot of wasted movement when he got back to the football. So it was like no surprise when it was time for the one-on-ones. He was able to like quickly. He didn't lose any. I think he probably lost one, but he didn't really lose any one-on-one battle at that Nashville. And typically because of the way that he was able to break on the football, recognize when this receiver is slowing down on his route. He's probably about to break here. He's doing different things. He's very patient too. I think that's very, very important for any defensive back in today's game, because we all know these wide receivers, they like to come out dancing a lot. They like to do all those dancing stuff, in which, to be honest, if I'm teaching a cornerback, which is kind of like all of the cornerback coaches I talk to, they always say that, just be patient, stay square as long as you can. And I can just take a look at it, be like, a lot of times you can just stay patient. Look at that waist. You can't go nowhere out that waist. They do all those dancing moves and do all the cha-chas and all the things they're doing. It's like a lot of basketball moves and stuff to get out their release. But he's really patient in terms of that, knowing that, hey, that ain't nothing but smoke and mirrors. I can just sit, knowing when to sit on the route and all those different things. He was really impressive at the cornerback position. But in terms of his recruitment, Alabama, Georgia, Vanderbilt, Tennessee, I think one of the things that gets interesting now when it comes to this particular class is, I guess he's going to commit most likely in July. I wonder if where Alabama's recruiting class is at that point will play an impact and play a role on his decision, because Alabama's expected they're going to have a huge June and July, because that's kind of like how it's going to set up. So I wonder how many commits would they have when he announced their commitment on July 4th. He's always going to be a take, in my opinion, but I wonder if he's going to say, look at it and be like, yo, you already got Zion Gibson. You already got Jordan Edmonds. Who else will you have by the time I possibly commit in July? And if you're looking at, and it's one thing I always tell, and I know it's kind of, you can look at it from both sides, because I look at it too. I want guys to compete. I want them to be able to say, like, oh, I don't care who you got. I want to come in and play immediately. I'm going to beat out those guys. I want you to have that mindset. But also I tell every kid, make sure you have a path to play. Like, you want to have a path to play. I'm not sure when it's going to be. You want to look at your recruitment and see that school and be like, okay, freshman year, I can't play. It's 2 guys in front of me. Sophomore year, it should be 1 more guy. Junior year, I should be able to probably go up against 1 guy. I should know enough to possibly beat him out, but nobody behind me is going to beat me because I've been in the program. I learned. I'm going to know what's going on. So I think that is important, finding a path to play. So I wonder what role that would have at Caden Harris's decision if he does announce it on July. Like I said, I think Alabama will be in it until the end. I think he's always going to be a take in Tuscaloosa. I think they are in a really, really strong position, but you do have Georgia. You do have Auburn, who seems to be recruiting really, really well at the moment. I think Alabama's in a good spot with Caden, and I think they can do a really good job in this recruitment if they can possibly pick up his commitment earlier and he possibly announces it on July. But I wonder, that's one of the things I would kind of like look at is like, where would Alabama be in terms of the amount of defensive backs they have committed if he does choose to commit on July 4th. But I think Alabama's in a good position with them.
Cool. Coach Sean, I know you was high on another player out of the state of California.
Is that the Arrington kid? Is he?
Yeah.
Brandon, you got any info on him, Justin? And what
Yeah,
you been hearing about him?
Yeah, he's elite. He's special because he's that long kid. Everybody like the long kids. That's just kind of like what it is now. Like I talked to so many 5'10" cornerbacks, and I'm like, dang man, it's kind of like the game, man. It's everybody like those 6'3" guys, 6'2" maybe, but the 5'10" corners slowly fading away. But he, like I said, he's long, athletic, great ball skills, plays on both sides of the football from Mount McGill High School in California. I thought he was originally going to be a wide receiver, like when I first saw him early on, because that's kind of like what he shined the most at. Like he was this long wide receiver. He's a track runner who has like these great times. I might be wrong on this, but I think he had like a 10. I know one time he had a 10.26.
Wow. That was just in the heat.
Yeah. So I knew he had that at one particular time. But I think he got like a better time even than that recently, but I don't know the particular time, which that basically correlates to a 4.3 really easily. So he has that elite type of speed. And you're talking about a 6'3" long type of guy. So I thought, this guy's a receiver. But then he seems to like really be honed in on the fact that my future may be at cornerback, because cornerback is going to be so much easier to be. I can run, I can turn around with any receiver because I got 4.3 speed. I got the length where I probably can be out of position a little bit. I got the speed. I probably can catch back up, and I probably be further away than a shorter cornerback, and I can reach my hand over and knock the ball out because you got that length. He seems to know that, like, I got this length. I could jam a guy at the line of scrimmage, be able to turn and run with them, be physical, be able to flip my hips because I am athletic. I think he really looked at that like, I can have a dynamic future at cornerback. It's kind of like I kind of like talk about Travis Hunter. I say all the time is that Travis Hunter is a great athlete. He's going to be a good receiver. He's just going to be, and it's not bad. He's going to be a good receiver, a really good receiver. I think he's going to be a transcendent defensive back because kind of like he brings to the table. So that's kind of like what I would look at like Brandon Arrington. Like I think he understands that I can be a really special at defensive back. Receiver, I can be okay, I can be pretty good, but defensive back I can be dynamic and elite. And that's kind of why I look at him. But yeah, Alabama is right in the mix. I would almost say they're in a better position with him than the guy Caden Harris. Because when you take a look at Arrington, he's visited Alabama so many times. Like I said, they've made California kids feel at home. I'm not sure exactly what it is or what the vibe is, but California kids seem to look at Alabama and be like, hey, this is somewhere I feel at home. This is a vibe that I think I can fit right in with. So I think Alabama's in a really, really strong position with Arrington. I think, like I said, I think it wouldn't surprise me if they got Arrington over Harris, which is kind of like what I was saying. Like if you look up at if Harris does wait till July 4th to the commit, and you look at Alabama's class, if Arrington is in there, if Jordan Edmonds is in there, and Zion Gibson is already in there, it could be really interesting. So yeah, I think Alabama is really solid with Arrington. Like I said, I would say they're in a better position with Arrington and Harris at the moment, but they are still in solid position with both.
Okay, thanks.
Hey man, I ain't gonna lie to hearing you say that about Brandon Arrington, and we in a good position for him right now, and we can have Jordan Edmonds, Brandon Arrington. Oh man, with Dejon Lee, and
it's a real life attack on Titan. Any animator is that that's real life attack on Titan. It's the big old wall.
Exactly.
6 foot, 6'4" corners. Jesus, yeah. Who's gonna play slot? Who's gonna play the Husky? We don't have a 6'4" Husky.
It's possible, I guess you can, because I think that's kind of like where Xavier kind of like has played. Xavier has some experience at that Husky position, so I guess you'll put him there. So in a perfect world, if they were able to get their wishes, and you like I said, if they have an Edmonds, they have a Dijon Lee, like you put Lee or like Edmonds at cornerback, then you put a Mincy at Husky, then you like say you put a Arrington at one of those like safety positions. I guess I probably put him more so at a corner position and probably put one of those other guys more at safety. But yeah, like I said, in the perfect world, you could have these entire 6'3", 6'4" secondary, which is scary, which is like I said, Dijon Lee is like insane. His length. I tell this to some people I was talking with is that he looks more impressive, which is crazy. He looks more impressive and stands out more when you watch him at Alabama practice than he stood out at the Under Armour game. The Under Armour game, he didn't really stand out as tall as far as his length to be. I'm guessing it was like maybe the Under Armour game is kind of like more so which kind of like what it is, kind of like what the college looks like in the future, where it's like a lot of long guys. But Alabama doesn't have anybody as long as him. So when he's running those cornerback drills, you're like, who the heck is that and where you come from?
Man, that I just know if you're a quarterback, you're gonna have to throw the ball perfect every single time. If all those guys on the field, man, I would love that, man. And that's my favorite position on the football field, by the way. But last one for recruiting, and he's a cornerback, and he's on the smaller side, but his skill set, he's top tier, man. He's definitely top tier. How you feel about Elbert Hill, man?
Yeah, Elbert is really, like I said, he's fast, explosive, which that's kind of like why he's still considered one of the top cornerbacks in the country. If I'm not mistaken, I think his ranking has dropped some. I think he was one time considered the number one cornerback in the country, like probably a month ago by a couple of different recruiting sites, but now he's dropped. And it's simply because we've seen him. Like nobody really, I'm not sure how much people have seen him before then, but I've seen him actually now a couple at different times because he's been on 7-on-7 teams. He's been to the Future 50. He's just a lot shorter than I think people projected him out to be. He's around that 5'11", 6 foot, but it doesn't change the fact, like you said, he still is elite. He still is explosive. He's shown the ability to have great ball skills. He has that patience too, and he just like say just on the smaller side, but he still is a really good cornerback. And Alabama likes him, like you said, and they are going to get him on campus for official visit. I think Elbert Hill's family really loves Alabama just based on how they talk about them, the way he talks about them, the way that Alabama has shown them like, yo, we really want you. We're going to prioritize you. We're still going to go after you, despite the fact that you are an Ohio kid, and we know Ohio State is right there. We know what they're going to bring to the table, but we still like you, and we still want to be involved in your recruitment. And I think that has spoken volumes to him. And I think Alabama's in a really solid position with him. I think also I think I can bring that same thing to the forefront. I think Alabama's in a better position with him than probably more so Harris, and that goes back to the old conversation. What if he's in that class too as well? So that's Alabama's in a really good position with a long list of defensive backs. So this whole summer is going to be really interesting to see what direction every cornerback and every recruit goes in terms of their future. But yeah, Elbert Hill, in my opinion, he's really good. He's really solid. Unfortunately, I think for potential and how things project and kind of like how rankings are done, he's going to drop because you're going to see so many guys who are longer, and that's kind of like where the game is going. Jordan Edmonds had a meteoric rise. I'll be straight up with you guys. I wasn't really crazy familiar with them at Under Armour Atlanta because at those Under Armour accounts, a lot is going on at the same time.
Facts.
A lot.
Facts.
A lot of things going on a lot of times. It's just and I hate it. I'm just trying to. I always talk to my guys. Yo, we about to get 5 cameras there. We're gonna just shoot everything because that's what it's gonna take to be able to shoot everything. You're just not gonna be able to get to everybody. And unfortunately, we weren't able to dive deep in terms of getting a lot of Jordan Edmonds. But we heard he had a really good day. Fortunately, we saw him like a week later at the 7-on-7, and we saw the length, and we saw him. He was a 4-star DB. Probably like a month ago. Now he's the number one cornerback in the country on some recruiting sites. So that length is just so important at that cornerback position.
Yeah. Oh man, that was awesome, man. Before because I know I just got 2 more things for you, and that's just the X factors that you had for this year on both sides of the football. Who you believe? So we can just start with that. Who you think the X factors on for offense and defense this year for Alabama?
Well, offense, I think it all depends. I got to go with the quarterback position in general because I think nothing else happens
Right.
if you don't find the right quarterback. And I think
Right.
from based on what I'm hearing, I would say, of course, I think a lot of people when they hear like the Ty Simpson buzz is going on right now, they want to jump on and be like, oh, all these different opinions and different ways. I think the best way to look at it is right now is that it's at this moment. That's kind of like how things should have been going. And I think when I looked at this quarterback competition, the first thing I said, just looking at Russell, because I saw him at Under Armour, I like Russell looks really good. He can make every throw. He gonna blow you away when you take a look at his release, how that's quickie snap release that he got. It looks so natural. He can make all the throws. I saw him at Under Armour practice. He didn't make any bad throws. Every throw was pretty much perfect against air, against competition. Every throw was almost perfect, and it just like it was almost off a script the way that he put it together. So I walked away like I know he can make all the throws. But to be honest, when I talk about quarterback, that's kind of like the checklist. You got to make all the throws. Every quarterback that's going to play college football, you got to make all the throws. It's kind of like just the qualifications. But can you make all of the throws in every different situation when you are trying to learn the playbook, when you're trying to diagnose a defense, when you're getting pressured, when you can't really see the guy on your backside? Can you feel that when that guy's you step in the pocket? Can you be able to basically go through all those things in your head and still be able to make the throw and do it consistently? That's what's going to separate the average quarterback from the really, really good quarterbacks. We've seen that in Alabama in several situations. But so I think in terms of just looking at based on what we're saying now, Ty Simpson is the projected starter at the moment. And I think it's more so based on he's had a really good spring, but I think it's also more so based on his experience. He's just an experienced college quarterback. He's going to be able to take in information, diagnose it, and know how to use it in practice. Keelan Russell, like a lot of college coaches say, he's drinking out of a water hose right now. He is so much coming at him. He got
I talked about that.
College. He's trying to go to classes. He don't know the camp. I went to Alabama. He don't know the campus that well. He probably know where every class is at. He don't know all these buildings. Everything is different, and just everything is different in his life. And he basically has gotten. It's crazy now when I think about it. He's just gotten Alabama a couple of months ago. Like it was just January. Now it's March. It's like literally not that long, and it's so much information coming his way for him to be able to come in and just being able to just diagnose and just take all the information in and just be dynamic. That would have been like amazing, and you would have probably won a starting job. You showing all that as a freshman. So I think where we are right now shouldn't really be a surprise to anyone. I think we should expect to be here. If you're looking at Alabama's quarterback room, you should expect that Ty Simpson show off his experience and show that he's the most experienced quarterback. You should expect Keelan to show flashes that he can throw the football, but he's still learning the offense. You kind of should expect Austin Mack to be more familiar with the offense in terms of the terminology, and I think he has proven. I think when I looked at Austin Mack, the thing I said this spring for him is going to be his proven point. He just has to prove he is a legit contender. Now, from all accounts of what I heard, he's at least proved that he is a legit contender. But right now, Ty Simpson is the projected leader, so that's kind of like what I'm going to go off of in terms of him being the X factor. Now, when I take a look at Ty, I think a lot of people forget because they don't like talk. They don't. I guess I'm not sure what the whole thing about it is, but I want to remind people to go back and take a look at Ty Simpson's high school film and realize how much he ran the football and how quick twitch he was and how exciting he was to watch in terms of him using his feet to keep plays alive, throw the football off unbalanced and show great accuracy. When plays break down, he did a lot of amazing things. I think that is something that's going to shock a lot of people. In fact, I wouldn't call him a dual threat quarterback, but he's going to be better on the run than I think most people would expect him to be if he is the quarterback. But right now, like I said before, Alabama fans jump on me for saying like Ty Simpson is going to be the starter. It's like it's just kind of like what the projection points to at the moment. It's this whole quarterback battle can go in so many different ways. He's going to have his ebbs and flows. And I think another thing just to keep in mind for people who probably are cheering for Russell to probably win his job, Russell is going to be a lot better in the fall than he is right now. So maybe the whole narrative changed in the fall when he's basically gone through this whole spring and he's gone through a whole summer and he's worked on this game. And now he sits down in the summer and be like, yo, okay, now I got the playbook. Now this is what you do at practice. If I did this wrong, let me do this or let me do that. Then the expectation is that Russell is going to look a lot better in the fall. So right now I project that Ty Simpson, that's going to be kind of what everybody talk about Ty Simpson is the projected starter. But I would say keep that in mind that Russell and also Matt are going to be a lot better at taking in that information in the fall than they are right now. But I guess switching over to the defense side of football.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
It's kind of that's kind of tricky because there's so many guys who possibly could be that on defense.
Facts.
Dang, it's so many guys that could possibly be that for them in so many different ways. I'm trying to think about who can be like dominant in terms of I'm trying to see. Oh, to be honest, Wes, kind of I'll pick a position group because I can't really think about a guy in particular because there's so much potential, and I don't know who exactly would just be that dominant player. But I think the position that could be the X factor and it could be huge for Alabama because they haven't had it in a while is that defensive line. If that defensive line can be as good as it was in the past, that could be great for Alabama because I'd be upfront with you. Alabama's defensive line hasn't looked the same in I don't know how many years compared to those great Nick Saban defenses. I remember watching Alabama, you couldn't get a yard. I'm literally like, you can't even get I'm like, I feel sorry bad for the other team. Like, yo, you can't even get like 2 yards against the defensive front, and they haven't had that in a long time. And I think a lot of that has to do with, like, no offense, I know a lot of those guys. I've built relationships with them. I've watched their whole entire like Alabama career. I've seen them in high school. I don't think you landed the right guys in terms of up front, and that's just how it is. And just to be up front, just kind of to be real with you, you landed too many nice kids. Too many nice guys are up front in the trenches in Alabama, and that's just real. I know these kids. I'm like, well, these kids are really nice. They're nice kids when they talk to me, and they nice on that field too. And like, so you need guys with some edge to them. You need a couple of guys with that dog in them on that defensive line, and you got a couple in that room right now. James Smith, that's a dog all day long.
That ain't Sean Robinson.
Yeah. That's a monster all day long. He's dead all the time. There's no with him. There's even not no light switch. When I interviewed him, he sounded like he had a plug unscrewed or something. Just the way he interviewed, like this kid. If Alabama wants to change their defensive line life, you got to land a kid like this. You got to land these mean, nasty kids, and you can't land a nice kid because I got for a perfect example, and it's kind of like just goes with Alabama. They missed out on him, but Peter Woods is like the perfect example. The great, nice kid off the field, but when he get on that field, he turn it on. He's this monster. He can turn on the light switch, and it's kind of like I looked at. I like it. It's been some guys. I saw Alabama land. I've covered them. I respect these kids. I love covering them. I drew a big relationship with them. I like you're too nice. For Alabama, what they need in terms of that defensive line, and what they need to be difference makers in the just up front. So I think as a group, if they can do that, if Tim Keenan can be more dominant and just show continued growth, I think James Smith is going to be really good. Edric Hill seems to be having it. I think Jeremiah Beeman has it. He's just a workhorse. He has that little bit of edge to him. So Jordan Renaud has it. He has that edge to him. So you need a lot of guys with that edge and mean and nastiness to him because that's kind of like what Alabama at their apex of their defensive line. That's kind of like what it was. So if that defensive line could be an X factor, I think this defense could be as great as they want to be, but that defensive line has to be as good as they are expected to be.
Yeah, if you're gonna be running a nickel defense, you gotta have. I mean, first of all, you need that big dude. You gotta have a 2-gap player that can be that can potentially be a space eater. And I mean, what we used to have back in the day was a do-it-all, a space eater, more of a 2-gap player, but also can be disruptive, especially on pass rushing downs. Because then when those pass rushers get there, they can collapse the pocket, and then boom, all of a sudden here's a 3-tech or a 1-tech, literally sitting in the face of the quarterback. Now he can't escape outside. I look at some of our previous years. We just haven't had that player. Like we haven't had those nasty defensive tackles, like you just mentioned, those really big 1-techs. I don't know. Like I think that what we used to do was that we went from a Terrence Cody, Jesse Williams sort of player, where we got a big nasty mauler that you can put in there, to now we went more a little bit lighter because we wanted to keep up with the tempo. So I think we're a little bit too light. Like we have 3-techs playing at 1-tech. We have, guys we should be Coach Sean, we talked about this.
Yeah.
How many times we talked about 1-techs playing at 5 and playing at 3, 3-techs playing at 1 and playing at 0. It's like we kept playing players out of position, but I also think that if you're looking at it from a personnel standpoint, we're light. We're not really huge. And so if you're going to be playing a nickel defense, you got to have those guys, those nasty, assertive, aggressive guys that can get in there and create opportunities for your other guys, so that just in case if you want to do like twists and stunts and loops, like you got to get those guys who can demand the double team or demand respect from the double team, because quite frankly, I didn't really see it until normally around the end of the year, and I would say that was more Tim Smith than Tim Keenan. And I think that's kind of the difference before what we were in 22. Like 22, we had Tim Keenan was a difference maker. I thought Tim Keenan was that difference maker because he actually had third down capabilities as a pass rusher, but we just haven't seen it consistently like we've had in years. So I Justin, I completely agree with you. Until we become a lot more assertive defensively, we are. I mean, again, we had a statistically speaking, we had a great defense, but it's just not there yet to what this defense is capable of.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's kind of like what I was saying, and it not to say that this defensive line was horrible last year. It actually was more improved than it had been in previous seasons. I remember, I'm not sure what year it was. I know it was like the game they lost against Tennessee in Tennessee. There was like a lot of games, and I was looking at it. I was at the Tennessee game. I was like, "Is the defensive line even out there?" I'm like, "What? Like, nobody getting back there." I'm like, "Y'all might as well get off the field." Then because I remember one game. I forget what game it was. It could have been Tennessee. A trainer called me and because it was actually Steven. Of course, Steven worked with TDA. Love that guy. A lot of respect for him. I think Steven did like a show and he basically went in and said like the defensive line, all these different things. And one of the trainers of one of the defensive linemen on Alabama's roster came and said he was right on. The defensive line ain't doing nothing. The trainer I've been calling Coach Roach, telling him yo, you need to do this, you need to do that, because it's kind of like that's kind of like what I saw from them at one particular point in time. I'm like, dang, y'all are just non-existent a lot of times. But like I said, this past season with Womack, it was steps forward in terms of that defensive line at times.
Facts.
Man. Wow. Man, I've been wanting ask this now. Yeah, we've been having a lot of controversy. It ain't been no real controversy. It's just been we've been doing
friendly controversy.
Yeah, friendly controversy. Top 5, everything. We've been doing running backs. We've been doing quarterbacks. We've been doing cornerback. We did D lineman. I think the linebacker one was our most controversial. Or was it the running backs? No, the running backs was probably it. I don't know. Or D line, one of them. Yeah. But I'm not even gonna ask you all that. I'm just asking you your favorite. Your favorite. It doesn't matter if this guy played 2 games. It don't matter. It's your favorite. Alabama, top 5 Alabama players ever.
It's kind of difficult to say just based on so many different guys.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna go with
you get a few honorable mentions too.
I'm gonna start with number 1, simply not because of what he did at Alabama in terms of him just being good, because he was really good, but more so probably because when I watched him was when I was playing football. So I kind of saw him. I'm like, yo, this guy is amazing. And I go back and watch his highlights now because he just was so good. And he's not even number 1 wide receiver in Alabama history, but I just connect more so with this game is Amari Cooper. That's my number 1, simply because I liked his game so much in terms of what he did. It made it that I don't think that last year at Alabama. It was like he was floating on air to me at times, because I'm like, yo, the way that him and Blake Sims, the connection that they had, I'm like, throwing to him is like a handoff. Like you just throwing to him is like it's always completed. And of course, Lane Kiffin, that he played a role in basically looking at that and establishing that. But yo, the way how smooth he was that last year and just looking at his game, even like with me being a kid at the time, I was like, yo, this is amazing. What Amari Cooper is doing, and he remains one of my favorite players to watch now, even in the NFL, because of the route running ability. And I think a lot of times it made me kind of remember. I think people forget how good he was as that freshman, because we see Ryan Williams about I think somebody put a recent video about Amari Cooper's freshman highlights. I'm like, dang, I forgot he was crazy good as a freshman in an offense that wasn't the offense that these guys get to operate in right now. So just from a personal standpoint, it's Amari Cooper, just based on that time period. And maybe it's just nostalgia, just me being where I was at that particular point in time. But yeah, Amari Cooper for me is number 1. Just taking a look at his game. I'm trying to see who else I can put in
100 balls that year.
Yeah, he was great for sure. He had everything that you can receive. Think of receiver. He just everything he could do. Everything you could think of, you want a receiver to do, he could do it. Let me just try to go by position in terms of my one of the running backs. I really liked. Probably I got to go with Derrick Henry. Yeah, Derrick Henry.
Yeah,
I was
that
actually
was
saw,
everybody.
yeah, I was actually able to see him on play because I was a student at the time and watching him play and watch this big dude who was getting the ball every snap almost. I remember the Auburn game, he got like 46 carries. He was like insane watching him, how big he was and what he was able to do. And I remember watching that Wisconsin game, that first game. I say, yo, he's gonna win the Heisman. Like that first game, I was like, yo, I don't think he was even in the conversation at that point in time. I was watching like, yo, he's gonna win the Heisman because I don't see how anybody is going to be able to stop this guy in terms of just his speed. And I went back and watched his highlights recently too, and I saw that I saw a commenter say like, and I think you guys go back and see it too. He doesn't. It's a lot of runs he had where he didn't get touched. Like he don't get touched. Like the blocks were like perfect. You like, yo, I didn't realize to a commenter said they were like, yo, he got so many runs where like the announcer say Derrick Henry untouched touchdown. It's like so many of them. I'm like, dang, he got a lot of like untouched touchdowns because
I just thought
the line was paving the way.
I just thought of one of them when he ran the ball 46 times in that Auburn game. Literally the last one.
Yeah.
The only touchdown that he got,
Yeah.
he didn't get touched.
Yeah, that was crazy how many times he just exploded into the end zone and into the open field. So yeah, I really like him in terms of what he brought to the table from that standpoint. I'm trying to see what other position I could go with that I really like. Let me see. Minka easily. Minka Fitzpatrick easily at safety. And it all goes back to the time I was in college too watching him. He was an interesting kid because I saw like just off the field. I always saw him like it was the Ferguson Center, the Student Center, sitting by himself so much. I'm not sure exactly why, maybe this type of guy he was, but I remember him in terms of the way that he played that last year. This guy was everywhere. They had him rushing from the edge at times. You're like, what the heck is this guy doing at the edge, getting after the quarterback? He made plays at every single level and every single way from the edge. He was everywhere. I don't know if you can categorize him as a safety. That last season, he was everything, and he was just in so many different places, making plays. He made plays in the kick return game. He made plays every way possible during that season. A great tackler. You're not gonna break his tackle. Kind of like this, I guess. Kind of like him, Caleb Downs. Kind of very similar. They're very good open field tackles. And it's no surprise that his career in the NFL has been so long. So yeah, I put Minka Fitzpatrick in there just based on his versatility and just him being impactful in so many spots on that defense. Trying to see who else I can go with who I really like. I'm trying to go more modern. Maybe is it any more modern guy that I really like. Yes, like there's a lot of different options. I'm trying to see if there's a quarterback who I kind of really like who separated themselves. Give me a second. I'm trying to think of some different positions that I kind of like. Yeah, it's gonna be hard for me to like name the rest of them. I probably kind of want to throw. I like this guy a lot, and I hate that he didn't get to play as much because I don't think we saw the best of him at Alabama. But Josh Jacobs, I just think we didn't see the full Josh Jacobs, and I kind of hated that for the Alabama fan base and just watching him because I think he was hurt 1 year, so he didn't get an opportunity to play like very late, like probably that sophomore season. He played a lot his freshman season. I remember I think he was number 25. At every point in time. Then he goes to 8, and then we kind of just saw like towards the end, we kind of like see, I think that Oklahoma big truck, we kind of like saw flashes of it. But I think the thing that doesn't, way that he was able to catch the football out of the backfield at so many different places. Just from a personal standpoint, I really like Josh Jacobs' game. I just really hate that I think we didn't get to see the full Josh Jacobs, and that's a whole nother like conversation I like to have.
He should have been the starter, Joe. He should have been his junior year. Should have been the starter.
Yeah, over Damien.
He should have been the guy.
Yeah, for sure. That's the whole thing I hate about so many people. Like I like to have that conversation. I'm like, there's so many guys who we can look back on at Alabama who just weren't at their very best at Alabama. They went on to have great NFL careers, but they was just getting good. They was just about to have the opportunity, but they had opportunity in the NFL, so it's probably best for them to go on to the NFL and do great things. But Josh Jacobs, I think, just from a personal standpoint, I could put him in there just based on the skill set and me liking his game a lot. And I'm gonna throw. Trying to see what else I can throw in there. I'm gonna put the last guy. I gotta put a quarterback in there. And even though he didn't technically win, I just like his game. I like his story. I like kind of like what he has done now. I'm gonna just throw Jalen Hurts in there because I just like his story and kind of like what he brings to the table and just what he in terms of how good he was. And I just think that it was a crazy situation. For sure. And I totally understand it. Yeah, I totally understand it from Nick Saban's standpoint, but just kind of looking at him and kind of like how he handled that whole situation is insane. The way that he was able to come back that last year. But it's probably more so be looking at the list from a standpoint of be liking guys' stories and liking their games. But there's like I said, there's so many guys to choose from. I don't think there's no really wrong list if you make that top five. There's so many directions. You can go and I probably can name a whole another top five and break them down in particular because there's just so many great guys.
Hey, don't look now, Justin, but if I'm not mistaken, 2019, the same year that Damian, and even though Damian was the starter, Josh went first round.
Yeah,
he wasn't even the starter, and Damian went third round. So you're right.
Yeah, but I think that's the last thing I hit you guys with, and I think that's kind of like you guys probably can debate that in the future. But I kind of like was thinking about this the other day. I was talking with someone. I was saying like, when was really the apex of the Nick Saban dynasty? I think a lot of people probably would say like that early on stage where like they were probably the time when they won back to back and they was like almost did the 3P. But I was looking at it, I was thinking like, I think maybe the apex was like that 2015, 2019 like range, because look at that range and the guys you had, those guys went on. You got like a lot of guys on NFL right now because of the talent you produce early on in Nick Saban's era at Alabama. A lot of those guys wasn't translating over to the NFL quite as well. And it was almost like a thing that Alabama fans heard, like, y'all guys ain't good in the NFL. But then you go to that 2015 range, you got Jalen Hurts, I'm talking about Lord, Bryce Young, Jerry Jeudy, Devontae Smith. You have Jalen Waddle, you have you got the Deron Paynes, you have the Jonathan Allen, you have Minkah Fitzpatrick,
Dalvin Tomlinson,
Marlon Humphrey, Dalvin Thomas. You can name all these guys who are great players in the NFL. Yeah. And I was taking a look at it like, yo, that may be the golden era. Then they won the championship in 2015, if I'm not mistaken. They made it in 2016. You lose 2017. You won. I think Did they make it 4 years back to back?
Yeah, we made it 4 years in a row.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, you made it 4 years, you won 2, and you got all this talent. I'm like, yo, that has to be the golden era.
Both sets of middle linebackers. It was Ruben and Reggie, and then Mac and Rashaan Evans. So,
for sure. And I was like, yo, this is the golden
era. They forget,
era.
Justin, about Quinnen. You named all those guys. Quinnen, Raekwon Davis, both sets of those linebackers, Eddie Jackson, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Marlon Humphrey. They was all in the same secondary.
Yeah.
People forget that.
Yeah,
that 2018 Bama team that beat Oklahoma, I look at every position on that team, from every position.
You know what?
Those guys are still in the league.
You know what, Coach Sean? The talent was because I agree with Justin. That's the golden age in terms of talent.
Yeah.
Wasn't the golden age in terms of coaching, because we had Pete Golden as our coordinator. You give if Jeremy Pruitt, because he was only there for 1 year, but you give Jeremy Pruitt that for 3 to 4 years, or Kirby Smart, you flip flop, you put Kirby Smart coaching those players for 4 to 5 years.
Crazy.
It was literally just wrong. It was literally wrong place, wrong time for coaches. I mean, for defensive coaches, because we went with Pete Golden.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of like where the debate comes from in terms of like where you would consider like the cutoff to be. But I was looking at it like, dang, that was a crazy dominant time in terms of like winning championships and producing players like that. Sure.
Do y'all know we had Patrick Surtain and Trayvon Diggs at corners?
Yeah,
those were our 2 corners.
Yeah, he tore his ACL in 2018, and then in 19, arguably 19 was probably the worst defense we've probably ever had in terms of the Saban era. That was the worst defense, but those are your 2 corners. And 19 was probably, statistically, I know people were going to go with 20. 19 was the best offense we ever had. I don't care what people say.
Mac
that
Jones.
offense.
No, that was we had everybody.
Mac was 20. Okay.
He talking about the year. I was a student that year. There was a year where it was no reason to stay. At halftime, we leaving. Like, there's nothing here to throw 5 touchdowns in the first half.
That was the greatest offense. I mean, 2018 was when it started, because that's when Tua had the 26 touchdowns, 0 picks. 19 was even better. That was even a better year. It was just
Tua just couldn't stay healthy.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
it.
I mean, and then we went up against another juggernaut, which was LSU. 2019.
We
LSU.
lost 46-41. We fumbled on the first drive, if you remember. Najee. Somebody fumbled.
Tua fumbled because he tried to scramble to his right and then he dropped.
That's what
the dude was playing on one leg.
Yeah.
He's playing on one leg going against 5 first-round, defensive talents, countless draft picks, and here's Justin Jefferson and here's Jamar Chase going against Pat Surtain and Trayvon Diggs and Xavier McKinney in the back and as safety.
Yeah, and I think that kind of argument a lot of people I like to have too is that you can make an argument roster-wise that 2019 team was probably better than that 2020 team, just roster on why.
It was
easily.
Yeah,
facts
for sure.
Jedrick Wills was your right tackle. Guess what? I mean, Jedrick Wills was your right tackle.
It was amazing.
Your right tackle was that. Your left tackle was Leatherwood. No, yes. What was it? Was it?
I think Leatherwood was our left tackle.
Yeah, it was Leatherwood. It was Leatherwood at left tackle. Right tackle was Jedrick, and then your right guard was either your right or left guard was Evan Neal.
Yeah, that was Evan Neal.
Yeah, I think the worst player on the offensive line was maybe Deontay Brown.
Yeah, I think he was on. Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, I know that like I said, that 2019 roster just like was amazing, and it just it's just gonna get looked over because everybody that's an LSU year, and everybody loves the LSU team. So
four first round receivers, and then again, I mean, we weren't gonna make the playoffs anyway because I think they would have just chose Oklahoma over us. But I mean, we lost. I mean, we get credit. People get Bama gets criticized because they lost to Auburn. People don't. That Auburn defense, that was a top 10 ranked defense, and we were not even LSU. LSU put up 23 points in that defense. The Great Hope, which was that offense, we put 45 on that team.
Yeah, just
insane.
My brother, man. Thank you for coming on to the show, man. Dropping this knowledge to the fans, man. All the great people in here. And appreciate Coach Sean and Jans, man, just coming on the channel, man. My brothers love collabing with them all the time. But I'm just so glad that we got to connect, man. You come on here dropping all this knowledge, man. I definitely appreciate it. Just want to give your flowers, man, because not saying because you here. Not saying because you're here. It's 3 guys that I truly just love listening to the most, and that's Bone, and that's you, and I just went blank just that quick. Yeah, but it's gonna come back to my head. But man, you are just one of the top guys out here, man. You doing a damn thing, man. I really appreciate your work. Just keep doing damn thing. But before you go, I know one of the subscribers and one of our good people, Miss Anitra, she said she worked with your grandmother. And she said she worked with your grandmother in nursing home in Demopolis, Alabama.
Possibly. Yeah, that's kind of like where I'm from. I'm very close to Demopolis. I'm from in the middle of Demopolis and Selma. I know you guys probably know, but I'm from Uniontown, Alabama. Very, very small town. I'm in Alabama.
Uniontown.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
foot wash.
Yeah, but that's kind of crazy. That's the first thing I was saying. Most people say the foot wash. They say Uniontown for sure. But yeah, that's kind of like for sure. That's kind of like where I'm from. That's kind of like was always crazy, which like always thinking it was always a great opportunity for me to work with me and Steven work together. Me and Steven are from like right town, like right across from each other. He's from Marion, I'm from Uniontown. Yeah. The only 2 towns in that county, and it's a very, very small county. So I really enjoy working with them simply because of that. We was like these 2 kids from like a very, very small town. And we were able to work for a major company that covers Alabama football. So that was always great. But like I said, thank you guys so much for allowing me to be on. For sure, I'm very thankful for anytime I get an opportunity to talk Alabama football and come on with you guys in the future. I definitely love to do it.
Let me say, Justin, before you leave, man, I personally, I know Jans feel the same way. Brinsky said it all in a mouthful. Man, we really appreciate you, brother. We watch you all the time. Been watching, I used to call into you guys' show. Love what you doing, love what Steven doing out there on the field, doing his business. Yeah, you guys are blessed, man, and we've been watching you and supporting you for a long time, and we really thank you for coming on, bro. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just think, man, definitely stay connected, man, because you're doing the damn thing. You definitely doing the damn. Everybody was giving you praise in the comment. So,
Yes,
man,
sir.
don't take that lightly, man. Trust me, you have a lot of people behind you. Because we
That's
love
right.
you. brother.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you guys. Like I said, anytime. I definitely love to come back on in the future. And like I said, to just chop it up was a lot of fun for sure.
Oh,
Sure.
yeah. And as always, everybody, make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. This may be my favorite one ever. So, man, y'all make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And just for the sake of it, since this all Alabama channel. Sorry, Justin. F them trees for Miss Janet. Y'all already know. Toomer's Corner, everything. I hope they lose this weekend. All that good stuff. Can't stand Auburn. But y'all already know. Until next time, roll tide.